the on-chain wizard himself. What's going on, brother? Welcome up.
GICG.
Hey, welcome, man. Appreciate you coming up. It's honestly, bro, it's been a pleasure trading with you these last few months. I've always loved your takes on the market. They say a lot of times it's some of these like smaller, uh, some of these smaller accounts that aren't like 500,000 followers, but like they're truly gems. And I'm like, man, when I forget I've seen so many of your threads. I forget which one was the first one, but there was like several of your threads. I'm like, man, this guy is just a wizard. He's smart. He has a really good eye for projects. So just happy to have you on stage here. And I guess the best place we can just start off, friends, is just a little bit of a background. Let the people know who you are, where you came from, how you even got into crypto, and I guess let's start there.
Yeah, it makes sense. First of all, thanks very much for having me. I think it will be an interesting one. Super happy to be here, and also super happy to hear that someone is taking some value from my posts, because I just started posting, not really expecting anything. I was just like, okay, let's post my thoughts, some setups, and let's just see where it goes. So it worked quite well at some points, I think, because I think I was doing good in the market. Think now I'm a bit touching grass for the past few weeks. So I've been a bit less active, but good to hear, and good intro. But regarding your question, so a bit of background on me. I started crypto, I believe, close to the 2021 top. I had a few weeks of, let's say, having a bit of this mania phase, close to the top. I remember like those really old cheaters, pumping to heaven. Like I remember one trade on Ethereum Classic. I don't know if you remember that one, but like pure shitcoin, to be honest. And those old cheaters were all pumping, and I was looking at things, and that's where I really got interest in crypto, on let's say the financial side of things, because I was like, okay, there's a lot of money to be made there, obviously, but then also simultaneously I was quite interested by this whole principle of decentralization, because I've always had some interest in financial services, and for example, that was a bit the time where the neobanks like Revolut and N26 were growing a bit. And then I was a bit fascinated by this whole concept of banks actually managing to disrupt the business model of things, of the way things are done normally, and managing to actually cut their branches. And I thought that cryptos and bitcoins was a bit of a logical follow-up of this interest. So there was both the financial aspect that was pretty interesting when I saw all these shit coins absolutely pump close to the 2021 top, and then I was also super interested by the fundamental side of things as well. So that's a bit how I entered into the rabbit hole.
Got you. So you kind of saw the allure of the potential ROI, and you're like, okay, time to get involved. So I guess you were trading back when we were just kind of like raw dogging it on chain, like Uniswap, like no TG bots, no trading terminals, right? You
Yeah,
were kind of trading. You got started there with trading actually on dexes.
so actually I think then after this period that I just described with let's say the main shares of 2021 pumping, like ETC, LTC, those kind of old coins, that are barely moving nowadays, but that back in the days were really crazy. Then I started getting into researching more things, and that quickly brought me to more centralized exchanges, because at first I was just doing everything on Binance, like most people start, I guess. Then I actually saw that there were many other exchanges, and that those exchanges were providing coins that you could not access on Binance. And I just naturally kind of tried things. I think my very second exchange was KuCoin, and I got some good stuff there. I think I got actually Tao super early, My average was like between 20 and 30, I think. I don't
Yeah,
know
nice.
the ATH exactly, but yeah, that's like times 20 or something, I guess. So Qcoin was first. I bought a lot of shit coins there, worked quite well. Then I remember the next one was MCG, because then on Qcoin, at some point, I was like, okay, I still don't have enough access to enough coins that I want to buy. So I also installed MCG and got KAS super early there. I don't know if you remember that one, Chill.
No, honestly, I came towards the end
Yeah.
of the 2021 cycle. So I mean, dude, if I was a little even a little bit more locked in, I could have gotten in at the summer lows
Yeah.
after the sell-off, but nope, bought the November 2021 Pico top, bro. Like it's crazy how I timed the top so well. I literally bought in the day things stopped. Like I think it was November 21st, bro. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
I guess that's how most people start, right? You need to get
Yeah,
those brutal experiences, and yeah, you need to
gotta
also,
pay your tuition.
yeah, exactly. That's a
Gotta
tuition fee. You need to see that is, but yeah, it's hard when you go through it. But yeah, basically, then on Mexi, I got KAS, which was it's still a layer one blockchain, and it was, I think, to this day, it's still probably my biggest multiplier. It's like 120 or something.
Man,
Yeah,
120x return on Caspa. When did you discover it?
it was around 2022, I think. I just installed Mexi, and then I was just looking for things to buy, and then I came across this like super revolutionary blockchain like that was solving the trilemma. I was like, let's throw a few things into it, and actually, yeah, it was one of my best investments, because also think I invested in 2022 or something, and then at that point the market was not really moving, but still Caspa pulled me like a 120x or something, so I could grow my stack when most of the market was actually not really moving. So that was a big one for me.
Man,
um,
let me bring up this Caspa chart. So real quick, so you got Caspa pretty early. Um, I mean, walk me through the process. Like, and I guess this is one thing that we wanted to talk about in this interview anyways, but like walk us through like your research process. Like, how do you catch these things so early?
Man, for Caspa, I honestly, I don't think I'm able to remember again what happened, but it's basically everything I'm taking. I think I'm finding them through X. I think there are a lot of smart people, and you're following the people that you're following is probably one of your best assets in crypto, because yeah, you will always have people smarter than you and that can find things earlier than you. So your role, I think, is to follow those people, and then to, yeah, make your own thesis about things on top of that, because you cannot buy everything that people is stealing you. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I don't remember the exact process, but I think found it on X. It wasn't super chill back then, of course, but then I looked a bit into it, and I was like, yeah, back then layer one was super trendy, right?
Yeah.
It was really the golden play, because yeah, every new blockchain that was a bit faster or more secure or more decentralized would really pump quite well. And this one like was based on some special technology that I don't even remember, but that's made it, yeah, well, let's say advanced in solving the blockchain trilemma. So that was a bit the thesis, and that was, yeah, probably one of my best investment ever. I don't even remember at what price I bought exactly, but I think it's like 120x return from bottom to ATH approximately. Obviously, I, yeah,
Man.
scaled out, so didn't get the full bag out of the top, but yeah, still was a nice play. So yeah, that was a bit the
That's
my
awesome.
yeah, that was fun. That was fun, because now I think centralized exchanges, you cannot really find super nice plays anymore. Um, and yeah, that brings me a bit to the next phase, which was trading on chain. I think at some
I,
point, yeah,
I
yeah,
guess that's the thing I kind of wanted to ask you as well. So you caught this huge you caught this huge pump on Caspa. You caught it early. You your research process was kind of done through like, or I should say, discovery process was done on Twitter, which
Yeah.
honestly I fully agree with. Like when I came to Twitter, I realized that there were just chads that would just want to post research like you, want to write thread thesis, not for the just putting it out there just to provide value, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's really important. But like you mentioned, there's not like the way to trade then isn't the way to trade now. There's not like many plays on a
Exactly.
centralized exchange
Yeah.
that you can discover anymore. So like how has your trading process kind of evolved from, I mean, you discovered Casper in 2022. So now 3 years later, you're still, discovering a lot of things early. What does your research process look like now?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think before what happened is that coins would just pump without, let's say, being part of a certain narrative. So if a coin was good, it would just pump, right? Because there weren't many projects, and if you found like a great project, normally you weren't sure that you would have great returns. Now it's a bit different. I think you cannot just, or at least the way I see it, I don't see individual coins really anymore. I look from a broader perspective. I try to look at narratives because there are too many things, too many projects, too many narratives, metas. So you cannot really handpick a project that you like if it's not part of a broader narrative that you don't believe in. So when before I was just looking at individual projects, and if I liked, I didn't care if it was a L1 or RWA or things, anything. Now I just start from the narrative, and I'm trying to think, okay, what's gonna be the next narrative where all the attention would be, and then from there I try to pick a few coins. But actually the coin selection doesn't matter so much anymore. For me it's more like what's the narrative behind the coin. If that makes sense. I don't know if that was clear.
Yeah, no, no, that was clear. So you're more so paying attention to, all right, what's the narrative and where can I position myself? And where do you find yourself most often? Is it mostly Solana? Are you trading on base? Did you trade on, BSC? Where do you find yourself trading mostly?
Actually I only trade on Solana right now, because so coming back to a bit the backstory, after those, let's say, shady exchanges like Mexi, I went on chain on Ethereum for a while, and I was investing in utility projects. Also worked pretty well on some projects.
What was some of your biggest wins from ETH utility?
Its utility, I didn't have any huge wins. I was early to Banana Gun. I don't know what price exactly I bought, but probably around between $2 and $5 or something. Like I accessed like this RWA coin, some AI coins like NMT, but I didn't have any huge win, I believe, on Ethereum. But still, like I managed to grow my portfolio quite nicely. But then, at some point, I looked at memes, and Solana. And in the past, I was always like, oh yeah, I'm never gonna touch memes because what's the value in that? Like, I want to invest into serious projects. And that
Mhm.
was a bit silly of me, I think. But then at some point, I just decided to throw myself into the water and just see where it goes. So I went to Solana, put a bit of money into a wallet, and it worked pretty well. So I was like, okay, there is actually some activity happening on this chain. There is some money to be made as well. I think it was fun to trade memes. Um, and actually the timing was really great because I think I did that. It was around October 24, so right before the AI meta. So that was actually the perfect timing to enter Sol. And then since that moment, I never traded anywhere else than Sol, because I do think that yeah, most of the super interesting projects nowadays and all the innovation is happening on Sol, even if base is also super interesting. And sometimes I also want to trade on base, but I also don't want to dilute my attention too much. It's already a lot to manage if you need to be following everything that's happening on Sol. So yeah, it's just a deliberate choice from my side to focus on one thing only. But definitely base is also a place where we have really nice projects. And someday, if I have more time, I would definitely go into base.
So, question for you. Kind of backtracking a little bit. You mentioned that you went from trading on ETH to trading on Solana. Now, I also had the same journey, but coming in late 2021,
Mhm.
and coming into that ETH utility season of 2023, 2024, early on, the thing that I heard a lot was, no, man, ETH is where all the innovation is. This is where things go down. This is where all the action happens on chain. So there was a reluctancy from a lot of traders, even devs, builders, teams, to make the switch from Ethereum to Solana. So, number one, did you go by yourself, or did you kind of like, were you working, kind of trading with others, and kind of other people came along and traded with you as well? Or how did that work? Like, was it just you
Yeah,
that kind of decided to go to Solana?
yeah. So back then, I was operating all by myself because yeah, I think I started really growing a bit a group of friends and sharing ideas with people not so long ago actually. It was probably kind of yeah beginning of 2025 that I really started interacting with people, going into TG groups, being active there, and that's where I met actually all my current friends now. But yeah, back then I just decided on my own to create a phantom wallet, throw a bit of money in there, and look what it could do. So that was actually a good timing.
I mean, you made the switch, right? But
Yeah.
many other people didn't. What specifically kind of drew you to Solana? What was the moment where you're like, all right, it's time for me to make the jump?
I don't know if there was a precise element that triggered the move. I was just seeing, I guess, those memes really running. And also, I think probably a critical element that I didn't cover was the experience on Ethereum, because I was also using MetaMask, which was probably not the most optimized wallet, but the
Nope.
experience was terrible. Like, to swap something, you needed to have some patience to approve 20 different things. Like that was a bit of a terrible experience. Also, the fees were of course super high because the network was really busy. So I just wanted to give it a try at Solana, and the thing is you get hooked instantly because it's so fast. You have so many things happening. Yeah, the user experience is just 20 times better, at least compared to MetaMask. But maybe if I was on Rabi Wallet or something, I wouldn't have made the move. But yeah, also user experience was a part of it.
Man, I love Rabby Wallet, man. Dude, I discovered that I think in early 2023, and I literally never looked back. I never
Yeah.
looked back because Rabby Wallet is just that the UI is clean. Like, you can avoid scam transactions, you can do so many things. But regardless, another thing that I wanted to ask you about was in terms of network. So the other
Yeah.
day, as you know, we had Bones on.
Yeah.
I saw you were watching that, a
Of
little bit of
course.
that interview as well. Now Bones was talking about like the value of having a network, right?
Yeah.
And I've always, especially during the bear market, I was always trying to network. There were people that I was able to get in touch with, that I probably wouldn't have been able to in a bull market when there's so much noise and there's so much going on.
Mhm.
So walk us through a little bit about your network. I mean, kind
Yeah.
of thinking pre Solana days, like as you're trading on MEXC, you're trading on Ethereum. Kind of walk us through your network there, how you've built that up, and how that changed going into Solana.
Yeah, but it's quite simple actually, because Ethereum, I was operating alone. Also, the centralized exchange. I had literally no one that I was talking to about crypto, like even our friends or no one. So really on my own. And yeah, I thought I didn't need anybody. I was like, I'm just doing my thing, and like I've never been like big networker guy or something. So I've always done things on my own. But then it all started on Sol, but quite late. I think also the full AI meta, I was doing things on my own. Of course, still really active on Twitter, but passively active. Like I wasn't posting or anything, but I was browsing a lot of Twitter and following a lot of accounts that were doing really good during the AI meta. But then it all started at the collapse of the AI meta, actually. So yeah, thing is, I made quite some money, but I round trip basically everything at the peak of the AI meta, because I, in the past, had a lot of trouble of selling things. I would be good in the uptrends, but I would be terrible in the downtrends. So yeah, I basically round trip most of my money. And then it's actually a funny story. And the guy is on the chat. I was down to yeah, it was not my last bits of money, but it really felt like it. And I was invested in a project back then that I thought was very legit, because they were in partnership with Ava Otherworld. You probably remember
Yeah,
that
I
one.
remember
Yeah.
that. I remember that.
And they had a partnership with a Microcap that I was invested in. So I was like, yeah, all good, like, no risk of rugs or anything. And in the end, I got rugged. Like those people, the dev sold the full supply. The thing dumped like 95%, and it really felt like the last words, like hitting me right in the face. And back then, so I was on the TG of this project, and I met this guy who was in the same situation than me. Is in the chat. He posted a message like, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but yeah, Yahoa. Yeah, it's one of my best friends online, but I don't even know how to pronounce his name. That's quite sad. But we were in
What
the
it is
exact
to trade, what it is to be in crypto.
exactly, man. It's getting out of control. But basically, we're in the same situation. We both round trip a big amount of money, and we got rugged on this project. And so we were discussing on TG, like, hey, what should we do? Because there were a lot of things happening with this project. In the end, the devs messaged us and kind of tried to bribe us to not really go into the open and tell that they were in partnership with Ava and that they rugged the project, basically. So there were a lot of funny things happening, and I was constantly messaging this guy, and we were just both like motivating each other's, trying to share new plays to make some money back. So that's how this whole thing started with that guy. And then from there, I was like, okay, that's actually great to have someone next to you to make things a bit more enjoyable, to share some ideas, to actually share some plays and everything. So from there, I just started being more active everywhere. So being more active in some TG groups. I started posting, I think, approximately at that time, probably a bit later. But I just realized that it's really valuable to have people who you can go to and just have a chat on literally anything, would it be market related or not, because you live the same emotions, like the same struggles and situations. So it's you can really relate to person on here on CT, on TGs, and that makes it great to connect with people.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, going through the bear market of 2022, I basically like zeroed out. I bought the top. I zeroed out a small
Mm-hmm.
5-figure portfolio that I saved up from my 9 to 5 at the time. And
Yeah.
2022, everything blew up. Earlier in 2023, I got invited to my first. Like you, I was just kind of like just putting out threads, like just writing stuff. It got likes, so I'm like, okay, people like this. I'll just keep doing it. But then eventually, like, I got into this one group chat, and it just had like a ton of these people that were like huge on CT, and I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, that was my first exposure to
Yeah.
the TG side of things, and from there, it just kind of proliferated, right? But same thing as you. Like when I first came on Solana, no, I wanted to experiment with it. I wanted to
Yeah.
see, and I got smacked both the first two times. And the last time I gave it a try, I was like, all right, it's Q4 2023. I'm going to give this one more try. And I discovered PopCat at 1 million. And
Oh,
I was
damn.
like, whoa, there's something here. I just have to
Yeah.
figure it out. I mean, I'm sure it was the same for you. How did you exactly figure out Solana? Like, was it just kind of you and your homie just kind of trading together, or was it just like framework that you had to build over time? Like, kind of walk me through it. Like, what exactly is your process right now when it comes to trading?
Yeah. So indeed, network is still a big thing, right? Because then it all started with this guy, Yaoa, but then I grew a bit my network. I met Bones, I met M.
When did you meet those guys?
But I don't even remember exactly how did I meet those. But I think it was on the TG group of a super low cap shitcoin that also rugged, by the way. So actually, I met all my friends on rugs, which is, you're getting rugged, but you're meeting great people. So it's just a win. But then, yeah, I met them a bit later, and also it's very funny because I met a lot of also great people just by posting. I was posting thesis, and yeah, it was Radar. That's it, Bones. It was we met through Radar. That was really a shitcoin. But yeah, anyway, I'm diverging. But I also met a lot of people by just posting, and then I started having people commenting my posts and providing alpha in my posts. So Jason, which is like Jason is really goated. I actually started being friend with him because he was commenting my post and he was feeding me some plays by commenting my post on X. Same for Finance Author, which was also one of my first friends online. He was just commenting my post at some point during the Belief season. He chilled me GTVO, I think it was called, this AI projects on Belief.
Yeah.
And it's the day after he chilled it to me, I bought, and the thing went like times 20 or 40 or something. So
Crazy.
it was just, yeah, I just started posting. People were commenting my posts. I just engaged with them, we DM'd, and I created this circle to trade together. So network is today still something that I'm really happy to have, and that allows me to find better trades. But more generally, to answer your question on how I approach Solana, I think I developed this framework of narratives and attention just with a bit the experience. There wasn't like a certain thing that triggered also this framework, but I think looking at how things function in Solana, I think people are just investing where the attention is, because you can have a super nice coin in some certain narrative, but if this narrative doesn't have any attention, no one's gonna buy it. So I think probably the AI meta was the biggest, let's say, case in point that narratives and attention is all that matter, because AI was just so important. Any AI shitter that would release that was half legit would just speedrun to like 5 million. So it's just, for me, it was a proof that narrative mattered more than anyone else. And since then, it's a bit a framework that I've applied, trying to look at where's the attention and narrative going to be next. And it's something that has worked relatively well for me, rather than focusing on individual coins.
Got it. Got it. No, that's honestly so true. We look back to when Solana was initially popping off, right? And it was this narrative around meme coins, right? Meme coins are honest and true to what they really are. There's no VC scams. There's no kind of way for them to fake being a good coin when in reality they're just here to extract. And so that was like the prevailing narrative with meme coins earlier on, and it just kind of picked up. Whether you traded on ETH, whether you were on chain, or you traded on like sexes, if you actually made the the shift and the transition to trading memes, you likely could have done well. You know, I mean,
Mhm.
ton of these things were going up, right?
Exactly.
Even if you didn't mainly trade them. But
Yeah.
I guess now the narrative is shifting a little bit more again. And I want to reference this tweet that you put out the other day, and I thought it was really interesting because
Mhm.
now the conversation is now the pendulum is swinging in the other direction. Right
Yeah.
now, we find that we're now asking, where is the value in tokens? Does the
Mhm.
value lie in the equity that it's backed by? Is it tied to the business? Is it tying the token to the businesses in some way? Is it
Yeah.
utility? Kind of walk us through how you're feeling about that. How are you feeling about ICM in general, but
Yeah.
how you're feeling about some of these kind of equity backed, equity anchored token mechanisms, and if they can provide any value.
Yeah, that's honestly a super interesting topic right now, probably the most interesting in crypto. And I'm still a bit undecided on this whole situation. Let me explain. I think it's mentioned in the post, but yeah, you get a lot of those projects launchpads right now that are looking at ways to to provide better value for token holders. Basically, that's the whole point of it. Um, and they are now kind of engineering things to make the value flow back to token holders. You get MetaDAO with ownership coins. You get streets with this new token standard that is kind of backed by equity. And I do think that those things are important for the industry, right? I think Solana needs to do better in like 5 years time. I don't want Solana to still be a place that is known only for memes. So I think we need some bright people to work on those challenges and to actually iterate, brainstorm together, try things, even if those are not the right things. But the feeling that I have now is that we might be over engineering things a bit too much. And by that I mean the whole the whole purpose for me in crypto is to have a good product with good with a large user base, with people that see potential in the products, and for me that is the best way to align incentives. But now, yeah, people are trying to come with legal mechanisms to kind of provide some value, and yeah, it just feels like we might be going a step too far. Because, for example, let's take Avicii, which is
Mm-hmm.
doing so well. Avicii launched on MetaDAO, but I'm not sure that the reason Avicii is doing so well is because it's an ownership coins. I think people do not care so much. I think Avicii is doing so well because it's a product that has found product market fits. It's a product that people actually use. It's it's the first product I'm myself using in crypto outside of the obviously tools that I'm using for trading. It's the first tool that the first product that I'm using in my daily life. So, and I think that's the reason it's doing so well, and not because you get some fancy mechanisms of coin ownership and those things. Even if I'm bullish on those things, and as I said, I think some people need to work on that. But yeah, sometimes it just feel like we're losing the plot. I think I wrote in my tweets, because we're not focusing on what really matters, and what really matters is investing, launching, and incubating projects that will have this product market fits. And I think the whole reason I wrote the tweet is because Nicolas Wenzel in the tweet below was saying that Pump Fun was would not keep the product market fit, or didn't have product market fits. I think that's what he mentioned. And I was like, yeah, that's a bit crazy to say that, because Pump is literally generating close to $1 million every day when on-chain is super dry. So saying that this is not product market fit is a bit crazy to me. And yeah, so my whole point was that you don't especially need so fancy mechanism. You need a good product with product market fit, and token buybacks might just be enough in the end.
Yeah, I guess this whole conversation originated with an asset manager here, Jeff Dorman, where he's talking about token holder protections, um and he says here that they can stop doing stock buybacks or dividends at any time. They can make
Yeah.
poor, capital allocation decisions. And he's just kind of walking through all of this. And he's saying in the end, you're betting on growth and if they can manage their capital well. But I guess here Nick kind of responds with just for those who aren't aware of this conversation happening, that you know equity holders don't have a claim in bankruptcy. And he mentioned Pump, and I kind of would push back on this as well, friends. I actually agree with you here. I think Pump, it has found product market fit. It
Yeah.
As much as people think it's extractive or it hasn't provided value from this to the space or what have you,
Mhm.
it still is a massive company. They have $1 billion treasury or multi-billion-dollar treasury, and they're
Yeah.
doing buybacks. And they're, like you mentioned in your post here, which is what I like. You mentioned that they're making they're making millions in revenue even in a slow
Yeah.
market.
Exactly.
Um, and so obviously there's product market fit when things turn up in crypto. I'm pretty sure the pump revenue will turn up as well. I think
It's gonna
Pump
be
is
crazy. Yeah.
it's the de facto place to launch a coin.
Exactly.
And it
And it's
doesn't
one of
like
the, yeah, it generates
Mhm.
one of the biggest revenue in all of crypto. And actually, if you look at the market cap compared to the revenue it's generating, it's one of the lowest, let's say, P/E ratio in all of crypto. I think I do think Pump is ridiculously undervalued, to be honest.
I also think that as well. And I guess in that vein, we can kind of pull up the pump chart, because I absolutely I love Pump Fund, bro. Like
Yeah.
as a token, I think it's one of the kind of cleanest setups that we have. Really, the only three tokens that I'm watching right now that are like on like majors are Met,
Mhm.
Pump Fund, and then we got the hot air rises, right?
Yeah.
But those are really the only three that I'm watching. And Pump Fund I'm
Yeah.
watching because of that PE ratio, that
Yeah. Yeah.
revenue and fundamentals versus how much value it offers. Here's my question to you, friends.
Yeah.
So we have this big conversation around what gives a token value.
Mhm.
There and in my view, there's three ways that you can give tokens value. The meta
Mhm.
DAO way with
Yeah.
ownership.
Yeah.
There's the sort of like I mean, you can even say equity, definitely with street, but I mean, SOAR is more like a debt structure, but we can kind of bundle it under that same sort of
Mhm.
category. So you have ownership, you have
Yeah.
equity, and then the
Mhm.
last thing is utility. And by utility, I really mean like buybacks,
Yeah.
right? So in your opinion, is there a one and done way of providing a token value? Like, is it only through equity backed or something like that? Or is there
Mhm.
sort of a range that you can play with? Like maybe you have an ownership structure with a little bit of buybacks, or maybe you have buybacks only like a hype or a pump fund. How do you think about
Mhm.
that?
It's, yeah, as I said, it's really a super interesting topic, and I think no one has the answer right now, and that's what is really fascinating because everyone's iterating on it. And yeah, to me, for example, right now it feels like we're sometimes over engineering things, but yeah, for example, streets, I read the white paper for the first time quickly this afternoon, and I was still a bit confused because basically it's still kind of a governance things that they're solving because yeah, I understand that they put some equity into a special vehicle, and then through a DAO people can vote on how the surplus is going to be used, but it's never really flowing back to them, if I understand, in the dividend kind of way or something. So I'm just a bit confused with all those things that are going on around equity, but I think it's good that people are really, yeah, cracking their head on that and iterating on some ideas. And I do think that we haven't found really something like the best thing that works, and also it's going to be different for every project, I guess. But it's something that I'm following closely, but I cannot really answer that question because we don't have the answer. I think it would be a bit arrogant to say that I have the way. But something also that for me is important is that we're probably really iterating on that and really thinking about those mechanisms because the market is so trash. Because in times of uptrend, no one is asking himself those questions. And now what they're trying to do is that they are trying to create a floor for those projects, not to bleed anymore, and link it to some real value. But if we were in an uptrend, basically no one would ask themselves those questions. But it's not a bad thing, right? To really work on those. But yeah, for me, what really matters and where we're losing a bit is that we need better products, we need better founders, we need better communities. And yeah, then it's going to be way easier afterwards to align incentives rather than trying to align incentives on projects that are fundamentally not great, and that are also born in not great conditions.
Absolutely. And you know, what you said about that kind of brought something back to mind. So I was actually watching a video that kind of broke down the ins and outs of the FTX collapse and how that all transpired. And they were talking about kind of the middle of the where Sam Bankman-Fried, he was like, he's on the front page cover of like Time magazine, being compared to like the investor of our decade and of our generation and stuff like that, really hyping him up. And there was an interview he did at the height of his fame. And here's what he said, because they were like, how do you think about tokens? And like, how are you able to spot these? And what he said was, tokens are like a black box. You don't tell anybody what's inside the black box. You just make it seem mysterious enough to where people kind of speculate on its value.
Yeah.
And what he'd do is he would collude with like a few other VCs to pump the price up to like 5-10 mil market cap. And that will make people kind of say, oh, wow, like there's $10 million in this thing. I think I want to get in as well. And so that kind of led to more buyers stepping in because they figured, well, this has to be valuable. So much people have invested into it. And so I felt like that's kind of the way most of these projects operated. They had like some sort of loose product, right? Yeah. But then they just kind of had this black box where, you know, maybe they put some supply, maybe had some supply control or something like that. And, you know, maybe they had some sort of like innovation, but they didn't really have anything specific. What they really did was they sold you on the future, on the mystery of it, right? And I think that is the part of on-chain, of just all these projects, that I think is like starting to mature. And you tell me how you feel about this, because I wrote a tweet about this the other day, and I felt like we've been in a bear market for most of 2025. We've had like little moments where things outperform, but we've been in a bear market, in my opinion. And I feel like bear markets typically force teams to up their game. Like you mentioned, when price is going up, no one is really asking us. No one's really asking any questions. But as price is going down, liquidity is being extracted. You know, there are more sophisticated buyers left. Like I said it here. I said sophisticated buyers are the only ones left, and they're harder to fool. So teams are forced to build things that are actually valuable. And that's where I kind of highlighted Avicii, because they actually are a great product with a great team that has product market fit. So I guess going into looking back at 2025, do you feel like we've been in a bear market? And do you feel like this kind of brought on this conversation of, oh, what makes a token valuable?
Yeah. That's a good question. I wouldn't say we've been in a bear market. I think Bitcoin went from like 18K to 130 or something. So even based on that, you cannot say we were in a bear market, right? But basically altcoins are different, because when in the past people were just used to Bitcoin.
And let me say this. Let me edit that. I meant on chain. Yeah, Bitcoin, absolutely. Okay. We're up stupid off the bottom, but on chain in 2025.
Yeah. Obviously, altcoins is just different, and on chain has been indeed rough for the most of 2025. Um, but were we in a bear market? I think the issue is that there is just too many coins to pump, right? When you have
Yeah.
thousands of coins being created every day, you have thin liquidity because, of course, the liquidity hasn't been great. It was just so good at the end of 2024, maybe beginning of 2025, but it hasn't been the same since then. But still, I wouldn't say we were in the bear market because you had narratives that were actually doing really good. I think, but the game is just becoming harder. You need to be able to be in the right things, and that's something that always comes back from like traders. That asset selection is just so much more important than in the past, where you would just buy anything, it would pump. So there are still pockets of outperformance on chain, but it's just harder to spot it. You need to be super aware, you need to be dialed in, you need to sometimes zoom out and take the time to think, or you can also catch the train, when it's going, but then you need to be careful. But bear markets, I wouldn't go as far as that, because also personally I think 2025 was my best year by far. So I wouldn't say that, but I kind of understand where people are coming from, and indeed your post is right. The game is becoming harder. People are asking for so many more things than in the past, right? In the past, I don't think people would really question founders. Now, when you're a founder in crypto, I think it must be a hell because people are just spamming you nonstop. Like if you don't post for 2 days, everyone is sending your token and just treating you like shit. So it's becoming harder. It's becoming it's really a challenge to be able to identify the good things and make money, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And I guess in that vein, so for me, 2025 was an interesting year. I came in off the back of like Q4, Q1, that was like a really nice wave, a nice little pocket of outperformance that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And in Q1, I was like, wow, like, okay, this is huge. Melania launched, Trump launched,
Yeah.
every tariffs, everything started going down. In May, we had this like this bounce that was,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow. And like again, great for my portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
And then since May, it's kind of been like years past where
Yeah.
again there were some if you were mainly trading, like if you're trading some ICM tokens back when like Believe first launched, and like Dupe went to 80 mil and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. I think that was even in the earlier part of the summer. That was
Yeah.
awesome. But then
Yeah.
June, July, August, ICM was dead. We were doing this show and literally
Mm-hmm.
nobody was talking about ICM. No one was interested in the space. No one was
Yeah.
even interested in the conversation. People were
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like we talked about earlier, the same money just being rinsed around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now going into 2026 and looking back at everything that's happened in 25, what are some of your biggest takeaways? Because you've had a great year. Many of us kind of had an okay year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Tell us a little bit about what you're taking away from the market this year.
Yeah. Um, I think first, I just had a great year because of a few plays where I was really early, and I was also kind of lucky because you cannot minimize luck in this market. But I
And tell me
was.
a little bit about those plays. Tell us about that. Like, what were your biggest wins this year?
Yeah. So I was as early as I could have been, I think, on the whole belief thing. Um, I remember it started with Dupe. I was on Dupe below 1 mil, basically. I saw it dip to even 500K, and I was like, there's no way this thing is worth 500K. So I was constantly buying more. And I was just convinced that this was going to be a narrative that was going to pop up. And then it popped up. I made good money on Dupe, but I quickly researched some beta plays, and I was then I quickly found Buddy. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yeah, I remember
And
Buddy.
yeah,
We had them. He was one of the so interesting story real quick about Buddy. Buddy was one of the
yeah,
first interviews that we had on the stream. I think not the first, but one of the first. And the guy that made Buddy, I actually followed him and
yeah.
I used his tactics that he taught in his post to actually
Uh-huh.
create my Twitter account.
Oh,
He used to
really?
be called NFT God. Yeah, he used to be
Okay.
talk. He used to be called NFT God, and what he did
Yeah,
was he would break down the algorithm, how it responds to your posts,
yeah,
what to look for. He talked about how to format your posts, how to do all these things to, you know, you're providing value, but you need to provide it in a way that's
yeah.
digestible. And he
Uh-huh.
really helped me with that, and that helped
Okay.
me to grow on X. So I always
That's
remember
funny.
him, and it's like a full
Yeah.
circle moment. Yeah, having him on stream. But yeah, I'm sorry. Just quick
No
side
worries,
note. But yeah, continue.
that was fun. But so Dupe started pumping. I was into it, and then I was convinced that this was going to be a narrative. So I quickly researched some beta, as I said, and I found Buddy, and I actually bought a lot of Buddy between 150 and 200K, I think, and yeah, it went to like 30 mil or something. So that was,
Jeez.
yeah, my best play of the year, and it was a nice, as I said, I really round tripped nearly everything during AI meta, so I really needed that win. And then from there, I'd researched the whole ecosystem of Belief super early. So when both of those started pumping, I quickly went into all the other tokens because I already had my list ready with all the, legacy Belief tokens like Creator Gen, Band, those kind of tokens. And I also bought some launch coin, of course, I think at like 15 million in May. So I was as early as it can be on the whole belief thing, and that was, yeah, the biggest win overall of 2025, and also probably in my whole, let's say, yeah, trading journey. So that was the greatest one. Then I was also quite early in markets narrative. And there the biggest win was, there were two. There was Flipper that I got also between 150 and 200K. And I think it also went to like 30 million or something. I don't know if I'm crazy for saying that, but it's at
Yeah, it was
least
definitely
20
like
million.
20
Yeah.
mil. Yeah, 20 mil
Yeah.
plus, I think. Yeah.
So that one was a huge one, and also OK bets that I had below 90K, and that went to like 5 millions that I had super early, and I directly saw that this team was just, yeah, out chipping everyone. And I also knew, I was convinced that prediction markets would be a narrative at some point. So when I saw that one, I was like, okay, I just need to accumulate it. It's too cheap, and those people are way too good. And there was also back then a lot of asymmetry of information because, for example, at some point, it was really obvious that they were going to announce something with Kalshi because some big people from Kalshi started following the project, but still price was not moving so much. So yeah, those are, I think, just Buddy and ICM in general, and then prediction markets with Flipper and were really my best plays of the year. And so the lessons that I take a bit away from 2025 is really this framework of thinking in terms of narrative and not individual coins. And that's now something that I'm always trying to apply when I see something pumping, like an individual coin that I'm not in. I'm trying to ask myself a few questions of, okay, does this have potential to survive and actually explode as a narrative? Or is that just an isolated pump? And yeah, that is my whole, let's say, thinking in crypto, and to try to see where attention is going to be next.
I guess my question is like, how do you tell the difference, right? Like, because we've seen a few narratives pump,
Mm-hmm.
such as ICM, like the Believe ecosystem and stuff like that. But then we also saw a period of time where like these narratives lasted maybe a day, maybe a week. Like we saw robotics pump for like a day.
Yeah,
We saw what was that? This the streamer, the creator capital
yeah,
markets. We saw that pump for like a week and
yeah,
die off.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
how do you tell when is the time to position in and when is the time to versus when is the time to leave? Is there like an invalidation point? Like how do you kind of balance that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I had made a post in the past about it, but I don't remember exactly what I had written in it. But basically, a few questions that I'm asking myself is there a link with the real world? And by that, I mean, for example, it's very obvious that AI meta was just driven by the AI boom that we just see in the real world. And I think most narratives, they they tend to have a link with a real needs or something that we see outside. For example, ICM is, yeah, you get this issue that people are not really able to invest in startups unless you're an angel investor or something. And that's a problem that has always been there and that people have been, yeah, interested in. So there is a link there. I think prediction markets, the link is also obvious because you get that are just growing so much. So I think that's the first thing that I'm trying to look at is this purely crypto driven? Because I think if something is purely crypto driven, there's less chance that it becomes a broader narrative because there's no validation, basically. I'm not saying that it cannot be the case because it can be, but I think it has less chance if there is no real world catalysts, let's say. So that's something I'm looking at. Something that I'm also looking at is, is there, even if there's no, let's say, price, the price is not moving, is there still a tension? Because I know that at some point, after the first wave of belief, the price were not moving, but Ben still had so much attention on him and on belief. And we had a second leg afterwards. And for me, I was also pretty convinced that we would have a second leg, even if it was not as good as the first leg. It was just, a bit underwhelming compared to the first one, but we still had one because there was just so much attention on Ben back then. I feel that, for example, now the attention has just died off from Believe and Ben. So I'm not sure we will see a Believe revival, but if there were still so many memes going on about Ben and those kind of things, I would tend to think that we could see another leg for Believe. So because attention and price are two different things, and you need to factor them both into your analysis, I think. So that is another thing that I'm looking at, and I think those are, probably the most important thing. I think, also an important. Does the narrative has the potential to attract people outside of the, let's say, traditional on-chain playgrounds? Because I think I read a few articles during the AI meta. There was so much liquidity, not because it was only people on chain putting their capital, but you had a lot of big perps traders that were coming on chain to actually trade and try things because they saw that there was so much money to be made. And those big guys are not going to be, they're not going to come on chain for like a narrative that isn't really worth it. I think AI was just so big that they would come into it and they would leave their traditional activities, but not all narrative has the potential to attract those big players to pump the coin. So I don't have a perfect answer to that, but I think catalyst in the real world would be my best element.
No, I think you actually had a really great answer to that question. The takeaways that I had from that was, one, does the narrative have the ability to escape the echo chamber of
exactly.
of CT? That's a really important one. And does it attract larger liquidity, right? Like, does it attract, the perps traders or people even outside of crypto? We saw that with the meme meta. It was very easy to get into, at least the stories that you were told, right, was that people were making millions overnight or whatever. So that definitely attracted retail. It attracted more liquidity outside of our space. I guess just using that framework, I really love that. And I might actually just incorporate that into my framework a little bit as well. But going into 2026, are there any narratives that you're using that framework and applying that framework to that you feel like, well, I think this can actually escape the echo chamber of CT Any narratives that come to your mind?
Yeah, it's funny because you mentioned it, but you kind of put it to the trash. Robotics. I'm
Hmm.
actually starting to look at robotics because I think, yeah, we're just in an AI super cycle, and the logical next step, I think, with AI is going to be robotics. There are just so many things to do with that, and the thing is, I don't know when, but I do think that in the real world as well, like we're seeing with AI, we're going to see a crazy robotic like cycle. But yeah, the issue is that there's this physical part to it, so development cycles are way slower, and yeah, I actually don't know where we're gonna see it, but I do believe that it's gonna happen at some point. And it's always been a narrative that's at some kind of attention, but a low one, because at some point I know Codec was doing quite well, and then a few robotics kind of were pumping, but it's really a meta, a proper meta, and I think it will come at some point, but it will need like a big, let's say, real world catalyst um, to to kick it off. But I'm pretty sure it would trickle into crypto. And it's funny because I also so started positioning in robotics, both in stocks and crypto. And I'm up more on my stocks than on my crypto. I bought two shady robotic stocks on the stock exchange, and I'm up like 50% on those. But yeah, my robotics cheap coins are pretty much down. So, but yeah, I do think for me it's I'm ready to position now and to take the downside, because those cheaters are kind of wrecked anyway. So I don't think the downside is huge compared to the upside that you can have, and I can just wait. It's things that I can hold for a while. I have a small watch list of like, I don't know, 10 to 12 projects on Solana robotics that are active and that are kind of legit. And I'm just slowly accumulating them. And yeah, God knows when it's going to pump, but I'm just ready to wait.
And I guess so. You have your eye on robotics. Do
Yeah.
you feel like ownership coins, ICM tokens, or if they're debt backed or utility, whatever we want to call
Yeah.
these, that side of tokens, do you feel
Yeah.
like they'll come back? Do you feel like that's something that'll kind of have a second wave?
So there are three things now that are on my mind that I'm positioning in. So it's robotics, as I said. It's autarky and ownership. I think I'm still doubting whether that is the good way to go about it, but I still think it's a good innovation. It's a fresh thing. So I'm quite bullish on MetaDAO, but it's not especially because it's autarky and ownership. It's, yeah, partly because of that, but it's also because the quality of projects is just, it's another breed of projects, I think. So I'm quite bullish on that. But yeah, the concept of autarky is also quite interesting, and I think there's a I'm sorry, I'm just shilling my bags here, but there's another autarky project. It's ZC, you probably know it.
Yes,
That
yes,
is,
yes.
I think, also ridiculously undervalued because it's the only other autarky infra next to MetaDAO. And I think this is the kind of play that I like to position in, because it's a new narrative. I think it has potential, and it's the freshest thing we've seen in a while. So I'm eyeing this. And I think it's linked to ICM. I categorize that as a subcategory of ICM, basically, like those MetaDAO projects, autarkies, ownership. So I think it's just the logical continuation of ICM and trying to make ICM better. But I think ICM is going to be a recurring theme throughout the next months and even probably years. The only issue that I have is that it's so diluted now because you have so many launch pads, you have so many good projects. So that's my only worry. Whereas, for example, robotics is not diluted yet. So those are the two first things. And then third thing is prediction markets. I strongly think we're still going to see a second leg, for the simple reason that there are still a lot of catalysts that are going to come. Probably if this poly markets airdrop it's going to be a big catalyst. People are going to look at prediction markets projects again. They're going to see that, yeah, there are literally projects that have this poly market patch that are below 100K, below 50K for some of them. So yeah, that's one where I'm also slowly DCing, and I'm quite heavily positioned because, yeah, those tokens are just so cheap. And Kalshi Poly market is growing at such a rate. They're also onboarding a lot of KOLs super aggressively. On your feed now, you just see so many things from Poly market and Kalshi. It's really becoming mainstream, and it's also one of those things, as you said, that has this potential of getting out of this echo chamber of CT. So yeah, the only thing that I'm worried is that those old, let's say, coins that have the Poly market patch, the charts are just destroyed. And most of the time, people don't like to be charts that are destroyed. So it might just be in the form of new coins, but still, those new coins won't get the Poly market stamp and badge super easily and fast. So I think those old projects that have received this validation are still some good bets to make, but they're quite risky. So yeah, those are really the three things that I'm positioning still and looking at. It's Futar keys and ownership coins, robotics, and prediction markets.
I think you summed it up really well. I've looked at this chart, or I've referenced this chart that we see here on the screen several
That's
times
great.
before. But I think that trading on chain, we have to look at different charts. We have to look at different metrics, because what applied before for previous alt season just wouldn't really apply here. And we've seen, and I talked about this with Bones as well, but we've seen historically things haven't played out the way they always have, right? Like Bitcoin pumps, that means we get a big alt season and it's supposed to be Bitcoin and ETH, then this, then that. But what we've really seen is Bitcoin pump and then on-chain pump. People, try to front run the pump of alt season by just diving straight into the riskiest assets. So that's why memes have pumped so much. People go straight out on the risk curve. And I think this is exemplified in this chart. Before, we saw these huge alt seasons happen in 2017, 2021. But what I noticed is before those alt seasons, we had like this sort of pre-pump, if you will, where before we saw the ICO meta of 2017, we saw DeFi summer of 2020. And there were a few other narratives that also went right. Like, it wasn't just DeFi, it was NFTs, it was gaming and metaverse and all those things. And same thing, like we've had this sort of like extended, and that's why I want to call it even a bear market, because really on chain has underperformed Bitcoin since the 2022 top. So going into a breakout of this 3-year downtrend, I guess the question really is, what can we expect? What type of, we know it's narrative driven, what type of tokens will outperform? And I think you laid it out very, very well. Robotics, I'd even just say overall AI/robotics. I feel like robotics is just like the next natural step. Now that we have, AI, it'll be incorporated into these robotic kind of plays. But then you also have like Futarki, ownership, prediction markets. I put that all under the bucket of like ICM, right? We saw prediction kind of pop up. Most of them launched on Believe. People kind of like brand, like just put that under the ICM bucket. So I think ICM will come back in a pretty big and meaningful way. So yeah, I think you're spot on, man. We're coming up on a little over an hour here, so I definitely want to respect your time. I don't want to keep you longer than you.
No, it's a pleasure, man. No worries. But just on these charts, are you predicting like a huge pump in 2026? If I can read that correctly with that green box, is that what you're predicting? Please tell
yes. Yeah. So I've had pretty big thoughts around this for quite some time now. Number one, we have this setup going into 2026, and maybe I even like I think I had a chart on this or a post on this that I wanted to bring out, and I believe here it is. So this is basically another way to look at that chart, that same chart that I was showing you. We've had these on-chain pullbacks of almost 80%, literally every single time. we're now, down about that 80% mark on the others BTC chart, the same chart we were just looking at. And basically what this really is, it's like a falling wedge. One of Bones's falling wedges that play out all the time on chain. So we're past that retracement point. And then with that, so like it from a chart perspective and a historical perspective, things usually pump after this. The chart looks like it's forming a pattern that usually pumps. We pull back quite a bit. So what will make us pump? And I think this is the most important part that I brought out was this sort of like state of liquidity that we'll be faced with in 2026. We talked about this like earlier as I was like kind of introducing you. Trump, Bessent, his whole administration, they're all saying the economy will be fine in 2026. The stock market will be fine. Everything is going to be booming. And just like earlier this year when Trump was saying, hey, look, markets aren't going to be good. The patient isn't going to like this medicine that we give them. Pullback, right? Tariffs. And then when Trump said buy in April, that was when we pumped in May. And he literally bottom called it. And now
he did, yeah.
And now his administration is saying, yo, look, we're all bullish on 2026. And going into 2026, we have like this liquidity, like everything is pumping. Like every central bank around the world is going to be putting stimulus packages together. There's stimmy checks coming out next year from the tariff revenue. So I say all of that to say, and then here's my favorite part, the ICM. So, for me, I don't believe in the 4-year cycle. I think that everything has been driven by the business cycle, which turns up when liquidity turns up. So as liquidity comes back into the market, businesses now have the room to grow and expand. They borrow money so they can hire employees, build new facilities, really start to expand their business. And that's usually reflected in this ISM survey that goes out. And every time the ISM is over 50, that reflects bullish markets, bullish liquidity, and overall just like bullish for crypto as well. So, and you see that like where in this chart where we go above 50 and usually Bitcoin freaking rips. So that's kind of my setup for 2026. That's why I believe this big green box here.
Man, that would be nice.
it would be, right? It would. But at the same time, I'm waiting for I'm already seeing it. A lot of people are calling for the bear market. A lot of people are saying, oh man, like, 2026 is going to be bearish, or maybe we see our last pump. People are expecting a shoulder, like a pump to 100K, and then we just sell everything off. So I'm loving the fact that I'm seeing that, but I'm still expecting, 200K Bitcoin, 15K Ethereum. I don't know if Sol goes to 1,000. I used to think it went to 1,000, but we've doubled the market cap, I think, since then. So we might even go to like, $200, $300, $400. I don't really have a target for Sol in mind, but yeah, like that's my overall thesis. And I think the narratives that you've laid out, I think that's exactly where we need to be paying attention.
But that's also interesting on the chart because you can see that every few months you have this purple box, which represents a new narrative. And now would be the time where it could start popping up basically, anytime. And it's also a reflection that I had recently. I think the periods like right now where it's super quiet, you don't have many things happening, where you need to be also a bit aware of what's going on and just keep your skin in the game, basically, because I think those are the perfect conditions for a new narrative to really pop out of nowhere, basically, and explodes. I think it was the same situation with ICM, right? It was during May. There wasn't much happening. No one wanted to beat the old AI charts, and then ICM came in, and you get those fresh charts, fresh projects, fresh ideas. And then everyone starts bidding again. And I do think that right now those are for such a thing to happen again. So I took a nice break the past 2-3 months or something. I was active, but I feel like now I should really get back to researching, spending a lot of time on X, because I just feel like it could happen, yeah, any day, basically. But yeah, it could be in a few days, but could also still be in a few months. But just statistically, when you look at your charts in the purple box, we could have something really soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just I'm just looking at the charts and I'm really not trying to be too emotional about this. I really
Mhm.
just want to look at the charts and see what's played out. Not even so much historically, even because
Yeah,
like I know that things are a little bit different. Like
yeah, yeah.
even the way we trade on chain is different, man. We weren't
Mhm.
talking about bundles, supply, and all that,
Yeah,
in 2021. Nobody was looking
yeah,
at, inflationary tokenomics, deflationary
exactly.
nobody was looking at that. And so I'm just looking at things and I'm like, okay, based on the way things are playing out, based on what I'm seeing from the charts, and then I'll show you like
Mhm.
one last thing that kind of makes me think that on chain isn't finished.
Okay.
It's this from CoinGlass. It's top signals, right?
Ah, yeah. You
Out of
always saw those coming back, right? And no, none of them really hit yet, right?
none of them hit yet.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the data. I'm looking at what the charts are telling me, and it's telling me, man, jobs not finished. So I don't know if you've seen me like at the end of my post, I'm always like, jobs not finished, jobs not finished, because
Yeah,
it's not,
exactly.
in my opinion. Like it's not. So
But yeah,
that's what I'm thinking,
yeah,
man.
to push back a bit on that, I think this is a bit
Hmm.
dangerous to look at those indicators, because in the end you're basing yourself on patterns, because those indicators, the thresholds, it's determined based on historical data, right? And as you said,
Hmm.
basically already a lot of times things are just different now. So I think, yeah, you should have a look at them, and it's good to have that in your toolbox. But yeah, I personally wouldn't give too many weights in my own trading, let's say, view. I wouldn't give too much importance to that, and I would just, as you said, play what's in front of me, basically. Because yeah, those indicators, you always see them, but like, yeah, I don't know, it's just based in the past, and things are growing and evolving so fast that having bias points and anchor points that are from the past, I don't think it's the most optimal way to go about crypto. But I also think that job's not finished, but yeah, not for the same reasons exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just trying to see like honestly what's going to play out with Bitcoin. So we know what narratives you're looking at. And I guess the last question before we kind of wrap up here
Yeah.
is what do you think, is going to happen going into 2026, or what's your approach? For me, I'm not really trying to like
Mhm.
predict. I used to try to like predict prices, like, oh man, I think it's going to go this way, that way,
Yeah.
this, that, it'll be this price at this time. But for me now, like I'm really just relying on markets to prove me right or wrong.
Yeah.
So now I'm more so like, hey, look, I think we're gonna be bullish in 2026, but here's what I need to see first. Like number one, I need to see us break this downtrend, right? I need to see us start to consolidate, or if we are gonna make a recovery, make some powerful moves. And as it stands on all high time frames, on the monthly, bearish, on the weekly, bearish, right? Like, and it's kind
Mhm.
of forming a bottom here on the weekly. 3 day still hasn't broken the downtrend, like going all the way down to the daily. I think the only thing, and even the 12-hour here, like with this bear flag that I've been pointing out for the last couple of days, this bear flag has been like playing out this whole time as well. So I'm really trying to figure out, like, or I'm really trying to put it on the market to prove to me that you're ready to go up. I don't want to be the one to go out on a limb
Yeah.
and tell and say, hey, I'm predicting this, that, and the
Mhm.
third. So I think for me, going into 2026, I want to see some sort of like consolidation, some sort of like breakout out of this downtrend. And then I want to start seeing some powerful moves. I have a bullish bias going into 26, but I need to see the market kind of like
Yeah.
open up and prove me right. How's your view on like Q1 of next year? Like I know you're on a break now. Like what will make you jump back into markets? Like what do you need to see?
Yeah. I think that's something that I really cannot answer, because first, I'm not really like so well educated in everything that is macro related, like charting. I never basically do charting. I rarely look at macro stuff. So I have actually no idea what directions like the BTC thing is going. And I'm just trying to play what's in front of me, and I just look at on chain and the narratives and the projects. And whenever I found a price that seems attractive to me, I just buy what's in front of me. But I don't ask myself most of the time, okay, do I think that Bitcoin is gonna go up or down? Because I honestly have no idea. I think, also in the past trying to predict those things, but that's not where I'm good at, and I'm not spending too much time nowadays on those. So I think, yeah, I had a nice break in the past few months. I'm getting into it now again since past few weeks. But still, I don't even know if Q1 is going to be bullish. I have no convictions, to be honest, in anything, but I just think that those prices that I see on narratives that I like, and I still think we come back at some point, I cannot pass on them. I need to DCA them in some kind of way, and I'm okay if things still go south and I need to bleed a bit more. Playing things, it's probably not the smartest way. Maybe I should just try to educate myself on any kind of macro theories, like high time frame charting, but those are not tools that I'm using in my arsenal right now, to be honest.
Got it. Got it. Sounds good, man. Look, this has been a very refreshing interview. You
It's been
know,
great. Yeah,
uh,
I loved it.
like we think the same on certain things, but we also think different at the same
Yeah,
time. And like I love that. I love
that is
that.
the beauty of it.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, we all have a different view on the
yeah,
market, and that going back to what Bones was saying the other day, like that's kind of the value of just having a network, having people that you like
yeah,
to trade with. You know, we all see something different, and we can all take something from each other.
exactly.
So
And
I
yeah,
think the
I think,
audience
yeah.
really like this.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, if I had to close with something, is that you just need to find your edge in the market, because it's going to be different for basically everyone. What works for you is not going to work from someone else. And also, if you see someone doing well with something, you should not try to copy. I like to think of trading based on three elements. Basically, it's finding first what works for you and makes you money, because as I said, it's different for everyone. Second is also what makes you comfortable, because it could be that you're making money but you're not sleeping at night, and that's also, I think, not really sustainable. Yeah, quick example for me, I don't like to throw too much size into coins that have high market caps. For example, Avicii, I was eyeing an entry, but I was like, yeah, I don't want to throw some size in that, because I know I'm not going to sleep well at night. But I know it's probably not the most optimal thing to do, because it's, yeah, there's probably a lot of money to be made on that if you throw size and you make a 2x or 3x. But that's just not something that makes me comfortable. And then lastly, I think you also need to operate in the market in a way that makes you interested. You need to find things that you're really interested in. And for example, myself, I really like new narratives, trying to make some hypotheses about where the market is going to go, where the attention is going to be. But it could be that you find enjoyment in researching some text, some low cap text or something, which I don't really find enjoyment in. So it's really, for me, compounding with those three stuff. So making money, enjoying the process, and being comfortable, being able to sleep at night. And yeah, for me, this is because we often emphasize only the fact of making money, but I think it's also equally important to enjoy it, because we're in this for the long run, it seems like, with the markets. And you also need to be comfortable, and you shouldn't refresh your portfolio every night at 4 a.m. when you wake up. So that's also very, very important to me. But yeah, everyone needs to find his edge, basically.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I totally agree with you. Especially the part where you mentioned, you know, what when you need to be comfortable holding a bag,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We talked about this the other day as well, but I kind of talk about it in from the sense of emotional risk. You are
Mhm.
putting yourself at risk of making an emotional decision. So if
Yeah.
you know that, within yourself, you're not really comfortable holding this because of whatever reason, whether your size is too big, whether the risk is too much, whether, what if it makes you nervous, you are
Mhm.
more at risk of
Yeah.
making a bad decision or making an emotional decision. And so I also try to hone in on that as well. Just go into plays, go into things that I'm, number one, interested in, but number
Mhm.
two, I know it's not gonna, like, I'm not gonna be checking the price, all
Exactly.
the
That's so
time.
important.
'Cause-
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Because you check the price all the time, then you're putting yourself at risk to responding to those green candles. You're putting yourself
Yeah.
at risk of, just making an emotional decision based on the short-term price action. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, I think those are really, really excellent points, man. Look, it's been a great interview. I
Been
think
great.
we'll
Yeah.
we'll wrap here. I,
Mhm.
I think that there's so much nuggets that we can pull from this, and I just actually reached out to our intern, our clippers, and we're gonna be clipping this whole thing up, bro. Like,
Yeah.
so look
Right.
out for some posts on the account. But like, I think there's just so many nuggets that we can take away from this interview. So I really appreciate you coming on. And honestly, this it won't be the last time. I'll be reaching out to you guys again. What I'd like to
Amazing.
do is have like a group of us on,
Yeah.
at times as well, just to kind of chat, talk about markets and what have you. So,
That would be so
but
nice.
either
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
yeah. Just I guess last thing, just what would you like to leave with the MCG audience, with the folks here? Any last little things you want to leave us with?
No, I think just we need more more people working on ICM like you guys are doing, more people, more communities forming, because community in crypto is just everything. So yeah, just a bunch of people talking on stream, people watching, anything that is community related is just so important in crypto. And I think that's something we were missing a bit before you guys created the show, because ICM was a thing, but you are now this really community aggregator, and I think you're doing such a great job at promoting projects. Also, just yeah, giving a transparent view on the fundamentals and the advancements in ICM. So I really think the show is so valuable, and I'm super happy that you invited me to have this discussion. It was super nice, and I would be glad to jump in again whenever you feel like it's adequate.
Look, I appreciate the kind words, bro. That's high praise, validating in a lot of ways. Actually, that is why we created the show, just to, provide be a more like neutral party, if you will,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
just bringing to the forefront, great builders, great projects in the
yeah.
space. And I like the word that you use, a community aggregator. I I,
I don't
I
know if
love
that's
that.
really, it's a bit of a bullshit term, but it's the best I could come up with. But I really think that you're this layer where basically everyone can meet, and also you have this broader view of ICM that also takes in projects in prediction market and everything. So you're really this layer where everyone can meet if they're interested into utility on Solana, and we didn't have that. So you guys are really killing it, and I mean it. So congrats for that, and it shows in the statistics. So yeah.
No, man, I really appreciate it. That means a lot that you said that. And yeah, look, we'll get you back on the show for sure. I'll be in touch with you as well. Of course, we'll be trading. I'm not
Yeah.
trading as much right now, but
Mhm.
definitely we'll be back dominating on chain here pretty
Yeah,
soon. But
we
really
need some
appreciate you for
wins.
coming through.
We need some
Yeah,
wins. So.
absolutely, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll get some here soon.
Yeah. All
But
right.
appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you on stream next time. Appreciate you, my
Yeah.
brother.
Cheers. Cheers. Appreciate it too. Thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
Bye bye.